Morning all. I have a very interesting game from Bobby Fischer again this morning to show you. It was held in Skopje. I've checked Wiki for pronunciation there. It's the capital and largest city of the Republic of Macedonia. So it is the country's political, cultural, economic and academic centre. It was known in the Roman period under the name Skopje. It is one of the successor states of the former Yugoslavia, from which it declared independence in 1991. So this tournament, which Fischer participated in, had a lot of Fischer's most dangerous opponents, actually. The Soviet Union sent deliberately, it seems, Geller and Kolmov, for example, who had plus scores against Fischer. So this wasn't one of the other visitors Fischer played, Peter Dely, and he kicked off with e4. This was in round 4, I believe. So e4, and Peter Dely played c5, the Sicilian defence. Okay, Fischer chose actually what became known as the Fischer-Sozin system of the Sicilian defence. So this is a particular way of playing white here against the Sicilian with an early bishop c4. We see after d6, the classic d4, c takes, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3. And now this classical approach, developing a knight here, not a pawn, knight c6. But here is the trademark system which Fischer used with great effect, and this is actually, I think, one of the more dramatic examples you may see. So this early bishop c4 here. So as I say, this is known as the Fischer-Sozin attack system. e6, which seems to want to blunt the bishop. Sure, okay, the bishop drops back for a moment, so it's not a tactical liability, it's protected. a6, which seems entirely logical. And now f4, as though white is interested in extending the scope of this bishop on b3 at some point with this move f5. Try and carve this bishop on the diagonal some scope. Black now plays queen a5. This may be a questionable move, although it's a forcing move of some respect. Knight takes e4 would appear threatened. It is an early queen sortie, but it also supports squares on the fifth rank, particularly c5 may be of interest later if white castles, because this f4 does carry a weakness on this diagonal, and perhaps it's creating potentially an over-enthusiasm for black to try and punish Fischer on this diagonal. So we see Fischer castling here, not worried at all by things like queen c5. Why worry there? Bishop e3 would seem adequate in any case. We see black, though, again, maybe enthusiastic, trying to do something with this diagonal, plays actually knight takes d4. It is helping Fischer develop his pieces. The rooks are going to be connected quicker now. If this bishop moves, the rooks are automatically connecting to each other. Hello, hello. The rooks say to each other. But black is very, very keen on not wasting time with bishop e7, but rather to be active in the centre. And this next move, d5, is played with tactical justification of this threat, bishop c5, to skewer Fischer's queen to his king. Okay, Fischer parries this now with bishop e3. And now black gets a little bit greedy. Maybe black already has a difficult position. He's committing himself to this d5 move. Black now plays knight takes e4. If you look at black's development, it's a bit lacking. All pieces seem to be lazing around here. Fischer plays knight takes e4. After d takes e4, he doesn't recapture the pawn on e4, but works on this diagonal again. He plays f5. So very serious threats now on black, and the queen sitting very nicely on d4, eyeing g7. If this bishop dares move, then queen g7 is on here. So there's a big point to that. Why waste time taking the pawn here when black can't even develop his king side? Black tries now queen b4, and Fischer simply responds with f takes e6, knowing he's got another check here if queen takes d4. So black plays bishop takes e6. Is black really going to be punished here for this lack of development now? Well, this is where the anticipation of forcing moves is really, really important in chess. I believe it's how most games are actually lost, through forcing moves at some point or another. And so I think this game is instructive for the drastic punishment meted out by Fischer here. First of all, there comes bishop takes e6, and again queen takes d4 can be answered with bishop takes f7 check. So f takes e6, and I wonder in this position, if I give you 10 seconds, can you predict what Fischer played here? And this shows the sheer force of forcing moves actually. If you can especially find the follow-up, then I think you're a bit of a chess genius. The initial move is sparkling, so 10 seconds to find the initial move. Starting from now. Okay, rook takes f8, driving the queen back. If rook takes, then we just take the queen. So the queen has to recapture. Now can you guess what Fischer played and why it's so destructive in this position? If I give you 10 seconds, starting from now. Okay, believe it or not, Fischer played queen a4 check, and Peter Dely felt his position was so bad he actually resigned. And I think this requires some explanation now. Why on earth would black resign here? Well, let's imagine b5 is played. Queen takes e4, hitting the rook and gaining access on this diagonal to things. Now if rook say b8, then check bishop, and queen c7 is pretty devastating for this rook. Let's examine the outrageous castling queenside. We can take this pawn, rook d7 for example, check, and the king's really too exposed here to all these checks. There's no real defense for the king. Actually, this is a very long sequence we can follow just to show white can even win loads of material. So this is a bad situation after queen takes e4. Rook a7, we just take the rook. Rook c8, for some reason I didn't pre-record my notes earlier for rook c8. I think actually that the reason why is just actually queen takes e6 check here is winning that rook. Or is it king d8? Then we have two choices of a mate in 3. Bishop b6 is a mate in 3. Like this, actually we don't need to win the rook. We're just mating black. So it's pretty diabolical after the simple queen a4. In this position, you look at the evaluation. I'll just nudge this up to show you the evaluation, +5. If black tries king f7, where he's losing the queen to rook f1 check. King d8, I mean, is just absolutely hopeless. So b5 is assumed to be the best move. Queen takes e4. We see a +5 evaluation here. And so I think this is a vivid demonstration of the dangers of this variation. If rook d8, check, rook d1, this is a key line I recorded earlier actually, queen e7. And in this position rook d3 is absolutely crushing, because white would have the threat of bishop g5 now. That's crushing. White's major threat is bishop g5, secondary bishop c5. If black tries rook f8, then actually bishop c5 becomes the strongest here, and black is losing material whatever he does. For example, queen f7. Actually we've got a mate in 2, even worse, just mate in 2 of queen a8 check here. So it's pretty diabolical stuff. An amazing impression from this game, from this variation Fischer specialised in. Fischer Sozin attack really did destroy the opponent in this game very quickly. The opponent a bit overly enthusiastic perhaps to exploit this diagonal, but neglecting his own piece development. The addition of material really doesn't help black when his kingside development is so neglected, and Fischer's crushing continuation just is crystal clear. After queen a4, to his opponent at least, he should resign here. Comments or questions on YouTube. And by the way, Fischer ended up winning this tournament despite the USSR putting a lot of players that had beaten Fischer in the past. Fischer in the event actually defeated both Matulovic and Kolmov in their encounters in the latter half of the tournament to secure first. Thanks very much.